Hello, this is Channel 7 World News, ELMD. I am your host, Michelle Venus.
And I'm Ellie Grace.
Tonight we travel to Cambodia, where there's evidence of a genocide taking place.
There is 1.7 million dead, approximately 21% of the Cambodian population.
A communist group known as the Khmer Rouge seized control of Cambodia, renaming the country Democratic Kampuchea.
Now we travel to our reporter,
Eyewitness Akira.
Hello.
What exactly did you see during Pol Pot's regime?
We saw a great spread of famine throughout his ruling. Many people suffered. There's dead bodies everywhere.
How many people do you think died?
I think around 150,000 died during his regime. A lot of peasants fled the country because of the bombing, but they died along the way.
How did your life change when Pol Pot came to power?
He had no control over us. Pol Pot did. Newspapers and television stations were stopped. Our radios and bicycles were confiscated. Mail and television usage stopped, and religion was banned.
What were Pol Pot's restrictions on business?
We weren't allowed to have businesses because he didn't want any independent business owners to make any money. All currency was banned itself.
Did he offer any health care or education?
No, they didn't exist for our community. Since the economy and military were unstable, it caused a great support to Pol Pot from our people because there was no other leading figure for us, and we flocked to whatever there was. Once he began dehumanizing us, there was nothing we could do to stop him because he was too powerful. The bombing caused many peasants to flee to the countryside by hundreds of thousands. We had no other choice.
I'm sorry to hear that. It was like you were all shut out from the outside.
Yes, it was very difficult to live in those conditions.
Thank you, Akira, for sharing your story. And now back to Michelle with more updates.
Wow, 150,000 lives. It's remarkable how many people died during Pol Pot's regime.
I couldn't imagine the pain the families are feeling with the loss of their loved ones.
Now on to Natalie, our expert with communal and economic changes in Cambodia.
Thank you for talking to us, Natalie. Can you please tell us more in-depth description what happened during
Most
the
of the
genocide?
main issues the Cambodian people faced were whoever escaped brutal murders faced intense labor with horrible working conditions. They worked from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. with no breaks in between. They were allowed very little food, usually 1 tin of rice for every 2 days. That's equivalent to 180 grams of rice for one person. A lot of the workers died from malnutrition, disease, and most of all, overwork.
What were the things that Pol Pot wanted to get rid of?
Pol Pot said capitalism, Western culture, city life, religion, and all foreign influences were to be extinguished in favor of an extreme form of peasant communism. Pol Pot was trying to purify Cambodia so anyone who was ill, old, or very young was driven out. Intellectuals or non-communists were sent to be executed at very short notice. People who refused to leave or didn't leave fast enough were killed.
This effect mostly.
The effects didn't stop at adults and workers. The children were separated from their families and forced into camps and never see their parents again. Pol Pot targeted minority groups such as Chinese, Vietnamese, and the Thai. Cambodians with any Chinese or Vietnamese Thai ancestry were murdered too. Half of the Cham Muslim population was murdered and 8,000 Christians also dead too. Since there was such corruption in Pol Pot's society, he was always afraid of his own members turning on him, so there was numerous internal executions and interrogations.
Expert Deja. How did Pol Pot come to power?
Because he feared Prince Sihanouk, the leader of Cambodia. When the U.S. ousted the prince, he joined Pol Pot to oppose Cambodia's new military government. When the U.S. military were in Cambodia, they had hopes to rid the land of the Vietnamese, which they failed at.
What was it like after the U.S. left?
When the U.S. forces left, it was a very corrupt land that allowed Pol Pot to gain attention of the Cambodian people as their only leader figure. So as Pol Pot gained support from the people, him and his teenage peasant army marched on April 17th and took control of Cambodia.
What did he model his society after?
He was a fan of Mao, so he modeled Cambodia after China. He planned a super great leap forward. He had intentions of purifying the Cambodian society, and he evacuated any foreigners, disabled, ill, or very old people.
This has been ELMD, Channel 7 World News with Michelle Phoenix
And Ella Goose signing off.